Mathieu Darche has outlined his plan for this team, but we're going to take a deeper dive into the plan, how it gets implemented, and its impact on the Islanders' ability to contend.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. We're going to talk a little bit more about Mathieu Darche's plan and how this team transitions from an older, muddy middle team to a more competitive team. Plus, we'll talk about Patrik Laine, who remains an unrestricted free agent. Is it worth taking a flyer on him? And Alex Jefferies has filed for arbitration. We'll talk about what that means for him and for the Islanders. All that and more coming up on today's show. Mathieu Darche has kind of spelled out his plan. And it's, again, he emphasized that the core would stay together for one more year, and then that the Islanders would have, as of now, the estimate is $40.6 million in cap space next offseason. And the other thing that Darche has discussed, and I think this is the key, is talking about creating opportunities for some of these younger players to come on and be competitive and earn roster spots. And the timetable looks very interesting. This year, out of all the prospects, to me, the one who is most likely to start the season on the big club is probably Victor Eklund. And, you know, whether or not he ultimately does end up starting the season on the big club or not, that remains to be seen. But I think out of all the prospects, I mean, he finished the season with the big club, so that was important. And, okay, it was one game, but again, is he ready? And then before the season is over, do you see a Kashawn Aitcheson on defense? Do you see a Cole Eiserman or a Danny Nelson get some, minutes or games on the team? Add to that equation, possibly, a Dalen Kufler who could get some bottom six minutes as part of a call-up. I don't think he's necessarily part of the plan for this season, but there are guys who are prospects who could see ice time this season. But look at what happens at the end of this year. Ondrej Palat and that huge $6 million cap hit comes off the books. Kyle Palmieri, $4.75 million, that comes off the books. Casey Cizikas, $2.5 million, that comes off the books. Kyle McLean, only $850,000, but that also comes off the books. Matthew Kessel, who the Islanders signed to a one-year deal, that comes off the books. Vitek Vanacek and Semyon Varlamov, your two backup goalies, total of $3.75 million. That comes off the books. Mitchell Chaffee, who they signed as a free agent, his contract comes off the books. And again, not sure whether or not he is on the team next year or in Hamilton. But that's a lot of cap space being freed up. And let's face it, Mathieu Darche could free up more cap space depending on who he decides to move on from. You've got guys like Pierre Engvall, who really don't seem to have a role on this team and who I cannot see being a good fit in Peter DeBoer's system. You have Anthony Duclair, who his inconsistent play in his own zone kind of makes him an iffy fit at best in Peter DeBoer's system. Can you move on from players like that who have not such great contracts and not any real defined role on this team and free up even more cap space? Then you think about who could be coming in the next year. We mentioned Eiserman, Quinn Finley, Eklund, Prokhorov, Daniil Prokhorov, probably another year away. Gleb Veremyev, maybe not. We mentioned Kufler. Those are players who may have a future with the Islanders. Aitcheson, certainly, I think, by next season will have a good chance of winning a roster spot. And then you've sort of got to add onto that list Danny Nelson, who we mentioned, and Malte Gustafsson, who after one more year in Sweden could be ready. And you think about that $40 million in cap space. If you can move on from some more of those veterans, or maybe even a couple of other veterans, who are not necessarily contributing at a level that their salary indicates, all of a sudden, you start subbing in some of these younger players. These younger players are making a lot less money. Ondrej Palat is earning $6 million this year if he stays a New York Islander. For that $6 million, you could probably easily add 4 of the younger players I've mentioned. You could have Eiserman, Aitcheson, Eklund. You could add 4 or 5 players for that $6 million and get more production out of them than the production we saw from Ondrej Palat last year in 29 games. So the opportunity to make that transition really starts next year. Now, what does that mean for this year? It means that the Islanders are more or less running it back. They've made a couple of additions around the fringes of the lineup and added some players who could help, but again, on one-year deals. So, you talk about Matias Maccelli, $2.25 million cap hit. That comes off the books also. He is on a one-year deal. If it doesn't work out, he's an RFA. You could either re-sign him or let him go. But bigger roles for guys like Cal Ritchie, maybe Emil Heineman. Hopefully Simon Holmstrom takes a step forward. You get a healthy Kyle Palmieri to start the season, a healthy Alexander Romanov if there's no trade there. Next year, Scott Mayfield's no trade clause goes from full no trade protection to 16 teams. Again, opportunities. Keep in mind this, though. Next July 1st opens up that window to sign Matthew Schaefer to a new deal, to an extension. Now, that cap hit, whatever it's going to be, and it will be a lot more than his current cap hit of, roughly $1 million plus the performance bonuses. But, for 2027, 2028, for next season, he still is going to earn that base salary of $986,250. And we will see what that extension hopefully looks like at some point, hopefully before he could be signed to any offer sheets. We talked about that on Monday's show. Go check that out if you missed it. But, you know, there are other players who you will need to bring back. And, you know, I mentioned Michelli. He's an RFA. Heineman becomes an RFA. Those two players are guys you're going to want to, you know, bring back and figure out at what rate. No question about that. And again, there are guys you're going to have to figure out what to do with, but replacing some of these veterans who aren't earning their keep with their production on the ice and making that transition. So this year you run it back. You hope that DeBoer and the health of Romanov and Palmieri and the few additions you made are enough to keep you competitive in the playoff race. Maybe at the deadline, you could add some more picks or prospects if you trade away some of these guys on expiring contracts, and or maybe just some younger players. And then next year that transition kicks in. And if you've got $40.6 million in cap space next offseason, whether it's by trade, whether it's by offer sheet, whether somehow the Islanders finally sign a big free agent, you've got the flexibility to add that scoring piece, because that goal scoring piece is the piece that the Islanders could not address this offseason because of their cap situation and did not address. Now, is there still a way they could address it? Maybe. We're going to talk about that coming up next. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a Swedish winger who is an underrated part of the Islanders Stanley Cup winning teams. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. But that's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal, and that's true in sports just like it is in business. And look, adjustments are important, but what really can be impressive is how smoothly those adjustments are implemented. Everyone has to know their role. Everyone is on the same page, and that is usually what separates good organizations or teams from great ones. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. All right. There's a lack of goal scorers on this Islanders team. Last year, they had 320 goal scorers. They had Bo Horvat, Matthew Schaefer, Emil Heineman. You get back a potential 20-goal scorer in Kyle Palmieri if he stays healthy and is fully recovered from his injury of a year ago. But this Islanders team that ranked, in the bottom third of the league in goals scored, they're not going to be substantially better based on the roster. Now, yes, you get more goals from, Palmieri this year than you did last year if he stays healthy. You can get, maybe Schaefer scores more than he did. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe Heineman takes a step forward. Maybe Holmstrom takes a step forward. You don't know what you're getting, if anything, from Victor Eklund. But keep in mind, all the players I'm talking about, there's a lot more questions than answers, and you do need to replace Anders Lee and his 19 goals of a year ago. I would say Palmieri probably replaces Lee's production 1-for-1, give or take a few goals. But ultimately, there is still a free agent out there who is a goal scorer, but he comes with baggage and questions. And that is Patrik Laine. He is a winger. He's 6'5", 216 pounds. Laine is 28 years old, just turned 28 in April. And here is a guy who, when healthy, I mean, he scored 20 goals in just 52 games for Montreal in 2024-2025. Last year, only 5 games, 1 assist. Not very productive. Here's a guy who led the NHL in power play goals with 20 back in 2017-2018. Had 15 power play goals in 2024-2025. Think about what it would mean to a guy like Matt Barzal to be able to pass the puck to a shooter like Patrik Laine and have Laine finish. Now, here's the deal. We talked about the injuries. He's got locker room issues, according to his reputation. He has trouble playing a full season. He hasn't played 82 games in a year since 2018, 2019, when he was with the Winnipeg Jets. Right now, the New York Islanders, according to Puckpedia, have $2.997 million, a smidge under $3 million in cap space. Laine hasn't gotten an offer so far. The market on Laine, not very hot. Would he take a 1-year prove-it deal to show what he can do, show what he still has left? And let's say he signs for $2.5 or $3 million a year. And the Islanders could easily make a little bit more cap space if they move on. They could bury Pierre Engvall in the minors or move on from Anthony Duclair in some way. There are ways to free up $1 million or $2 million in cap space if they need to. Okay? And is it worth taking the risk on Laine? The question to me becomes this. It's twofold. I don't see Laine as a good fit with Peter DeBoer because he doesn't play defense. That's the reputation he has. He's an offensive-minded guy, loves to shoot the puck. He's aggressive in that department, but he does not back check, pick up his man consistently. That's not the strength of his game. Is he willing to do it enough not to end up in Peter DeBoer's doghouse? And is he going to be at least a neutral, not a negative force in the locker room? Those are questions he would have to answer. Then, if you are convinced that the answer to those two questions is, yeah, we're fine, then you figure out, is he willing to sign for, $2.5, maybe $3.5 max $1 million? And if he is, and you think he'll at least give an effort to play defense and not be a negative in the locker room, then you negotiate potentially a deal. Now, does Laine want to come to Long Island? That's something that we do not know. Has Mathieu Darche reached out? We don't know that either, but he's there. He would check a few boxes, a 1-year prove-it deal. If it doesn't work out, again, he comes off the books. Next offseason, no harm, no foul, right? And this year, which is a transition year anyway, where the team is hoping to compete. Look, let's face this fact. And it may not make a lot of fans happy, but this offseason, the teams competing with the Islanders did more to improve their rosters than the Islanders did. Certainly, the Washington Capitals added a lot to their lineup. The Rangers added to their lineup with Dorofeyev. A lot of teams in the East, the Flyers, whether they land Leo Carlsson or not, made some bold moves in the offseason. If the Islanders take a shot at Laine and it doesn't work out, they could trade him at the deadline if he's healthy, or they just let him walk next year during the offseason. It's a low risk, potentially high reward move. I'm still more concerned about the locker room and the back checking than anything else. I am not convinced that Laine might cause issues in the Islanders locker room. But again, if you can clear that hurdle and he's willing to come here for a reasonable rate, it's worth at least looking into. But I certainly have strong reservations based on his history. But boy, the idea of Schaefer and Barzal being able to feed the puck to a finisher like Laine, it's enticing. It's tempting. Can he stay healthy? Can he keep his head on right? Can he be a good teammate? Can he play defense enough? There's a lot of questions. I'm hesitant. I'm just putting it out there that this guy would check a few boxes if all of these conditions are met. We'll see if anything comes of it. We have got more to get to on today's show. The Islanders had one player file for arbitration earlier this week. We'll talk about the player and what that means and whether the Islanders will actually use the opportunity it creates. All that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, coming up next. So, Alex Jefferies was given a qualifying offer and basically wants more money than what the qualifying offer is. So the Islanders made a qualifying offer to Alex Jefferies of, I believe it was $850,000. Okay. He files for arbitration. He thinks he's worth more than that. Now, last year, he played 60 games in Bridgeport, and the 24-year-old had 9 goals and 20 assists, 29 points. That move, I mean, how much more money is a 24-year-old AHL player who had a point every other game going to get? Maybe he goes to 950, $1 million tops. And the odds of Alex Jefferies being on the NHL roster this season, not very high. But what it does, in addition to this, is it opens up a second buyout window. Now, I don't think the Islanders will buy out the player who everyone is talking about, and everydayers know I've talked about as well, and that's Ondrej Palat. Why? Let's tie it back into the first segment. It's all about the transition. You could buy out Ondrej Palat and save, $3-4 million against the cap this year. But you're going to take away cap money from next year because you spread out the money and there's a dead cap hit. And I don't think Mathieu Darche wants to do that. So if you're going to sign another player, if there is someone you can add to the team for this year, maybe you think about buying out an Ondrej Palat after this window opens. But it's got to be something more than just, short-term help. It's got to be more than, it's got to be a player with a future on this team that makes it worthwhile beyond this year. Because to Darche, right now, the priority is next year. And any move, Mathieu Darche is willing to gamble that Ondrej Palat can be a respectable fourth-line winger this year. And even though $6 million is probably more than most teams pay their entire fourth line, that trade did not work out. It was not a good move. And yet, to keep the cap space available in a year, he's willing to bite the bullet at this point. Keep Palat on the roster and not take that cap hit against next year. If he could work out a trade, if anyone is willing to take Palat as part of a bigger deal, again, do not give up picks, do not give up prospects to have someone take him off your hands. He's coming off the books next July 1st, either way. So there's more flexibility there as a result of Jefferies going to arbitration. Whether or not, I doubt that Darche buys out Palat, even though in isolation, that $6 million cap hit, he's not playing anywhere near that level of hockey. Okay. But the option exists. And now we'll see what, if anything, comes of it. And again, just keeping you all informed about where the options are, what could happen. I don't think the buyout is going to be used, but we'll see how it all plays out. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day. And Monday was the 74th birthday of former Islanders forward Anders Kaller. Kaller, a native of Sweden, 5'10", 190 pounds, joined the Islanders in the 1979-80 season, scored 22 goals and 52 points as a rookie. The following year, 80-81, he had 36 goals. That was a career high, and 64 points. And, missed the playoffs in 1980, but was on the three other Stanley Cup winning teams that he was on all four teams, but didn't play in the postseason in 1980. Had 15 points in 20 playoff games in 82-83. Stayed on the island until the 84-85 season and then hung up his skates. Played in 383 career NHL games, 101 goals, 211 points, 149 penalty minutes. Add 12 goals and 35 points in 78 playoff games, all with the Islanders. His best game as an Islander, this one's easy. November 30th, 1980, Islanders visiting Le Colisée in Quebec. The goalie for the Islanders, Chico Resch. Michel Plas, the goalie for the Quebec Nordique. He was the first pro goalie to score a goal. He did it in the minors. Little trivia there. Anyway, in this game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Anders Kaller opened the scoring midway through the first period with an unassisted goal that made it 1-0 Islanders. Then, with Stefan Persson in the box for tripping, Kaller scores a shorty. Dennis Potvin and Bob Bourne with the assists. That makes it 2-0 Islanders. And then exactly 1 minute later, in the final minute of the period, Kaller sets up Bob Bourne, and the Islanders hold a 3-0 lead after one period. After two periods, it's 4-2 Islanders. And then our Islanders' birthday of the day, Anders Kaller sets up Butch Goring. That makes the Islanders lead 5-2. Then, after Goring scores again to make it 6-2, Goring sets up Kaller for his third goal of the game. The Islanders go on to win this one by a score of 7-3, 25 saves for Chico Resch. But for Anders Kaller, 3 goals, 2 assists. He has a 5-point game. He is a +6. He had 5 shots on goal in this game. And the Islanders go on to an easy 7-3 win. So Anders Kaller, a very important but often overlooked member of the Islanders' 4 Stanley Cup winning teams. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 till the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. Now, we're on our off-season schedule for the next few weeks, so it'll be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday shows. If there's a big news item, we will have another show right away, so you won't have to wait. But that is what we're doing right now. We're on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule for the next few weeks as the height of the offseason hits. So hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss one of our episodes. We will keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long. And we are proud to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we are now celebrating 10 years of Locked On, and we are now the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason, and we're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And I do host the Monday edition and co-host the Friday edition of Locked On NHL as well. Everydayers will be back Friday. We'll have the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, any more trade rumors that are out there, any more information about the arbitration, if they reach an agreement, any other signings or moves, we will have it covered for you, of course, right here on the Locked On Islanders podcast. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.